Hello. In this video, we'll look at how to set up roles and permissions for a Jupyter Notebook running on Google Cloud. The roles and permissions set up will allow us to create, run, and destroy various Google Cloud resources with Python notebook code. Let's quickly visualize what we're trying to achieve here. We'll consider 3 example resources: a BigQuery dataset, a Vertex AI experiment, and a cloud storage bucket. We're going to use roles, IAM policies, and a service account in a way that eliminates the need for authorization and authentication code. Without any sort of credentials management or access management, our Jupyter Notebook will work seamlessly with GCP. With what we're trying to achieve established, let's now jump into the Google Cloud Console and set these resources up. The first thing we'll want to do is get our IAM resources set up. If we go to IAM and Admin, and then IAM, this will give us a nice console for managing service accounts, roles, and IAM policies. First, we need a service account. We'll need the service account ID later, so you may want to copy that here. Optionally, we can assign roles to the service account from the onset. However, let's actually wait on this and set up the role bindings in a different interface. The separate interface for role assignment is one that you can go back to later after the service account is created. Okay, so let's copy the email for the service account if you haven't already. We'll need it in just a moment. And now we can start assigning roles to that service account. We're assigning roles at the project level. The principal that we're assigning roles to is that new service account. For the planned BigQuery dataset creation, we'll go ahead and give the service account BigQuery admin permissions. For the planned cloud storage bucket creation, let's give the service account storage admin access. And finally, for the Vertex AI experiment, let's go ahead and provision Vertex AI administrator access. Importantly, we should note that these are broadly scoped roles. You might consider these permissions to be over-provisioned if, in a steady state, all we need is just bucket, dataset, and experiment creation. However, in our example, we're going to round up on permissions and imagine that we're in an experimentation project without production resources. In that case, it's probably okay to over-provision some permissions and allow the Jupyter Notebook to more easily experiment with the BigQuery, cloud storage, and Vertex AI services. As a quick tangent, I'll also note that if the pre-built roles offer too many permissions, you can always create your own custom roles. However, you typically want to use the pre-built roles. To see what permissions they contain, you can search them. For example, the BigQuery admin role includes quite a lot of permissions around core BigQuery usage, unsurprisingly, but also includes a few permissions around BigQuery migration service, BigQuery data transfer service, and even project metadata. To create a role, we would go here, create a name, and then add permissions. Again, this is only needed for very fine-grained access control use cases. In any case, with our service account now created and required roles now assigned, we can go to Vertex AI and create our notebook. Specifically, we need to go to Vertex AI Workbench. And we're going to create a user-managed notebook with TensorFlow Enterprise 2.8. We don't need GPUs. Now, importantly, we need to go to Advanced Options before creating the notebook. From there, we select our new service account. By default, these notebooks will use the Compute Engine default service account, so we want to replace that with our service account here. Taking a look at the rest of the setup, note that we can do things like add GPUs if we needed to do something like machine learning. We can also change the machine size. This TensorFlow Enterprise 2.8 is going to give us a lot of libraries that will be useful for data analytics, data science, and AI machine learning. Additionally, these notebooks are going to contain the Google Cloud SDK, which allows us to do things like create our BigQuery dataset, our cloud storage bucket, and our Vertex AI experiment. This will all be done in Python code and without tedious dependencies setup. Finally, be sure to check the cost estimate. When you're done with your notebook, you should either turn it off or delete it. In any case, these settings all look good. It's going to take a little while for this notebook to provision. Typically, this will be between about 3 and 5 minutes or so. With our notebook now created, we'll click Open Jupyter Lab. If a build recommendation comes up, I would recommend just going ahead and clicking Build. Now let's start a new notebook and paste in some code that will allow us to create a bucket, a dataset, and an experiment. First, here's some code for a BigQuery dataset, which we've shared on GitHub. A link is in the description of this video. For this to run, we're going to need the project ID and a dataset name. For the project, we can go to the Cloud Console homepage and copy the project ID. We press Shift and Enter, or press this play button to execute the cell. And now that we've created our dataset, if we go over to BigQuery, we can now see the created dataset here. Let's delete the dataset since it's just an example and not something we need long term. Again, this automated resource creation is only possible because of that earlier service account and role binding setup. We don't need any authentication code. Next, let's look at creating a cloud storage bucket. Again, we need to specify a region and a name. Note that for Google Cloud Storage buckets, the name needs to be unique across all of Google Cloud. So other Google Cloud customers may have already taken a name that you have in mind. You may need to be flexible with the naming here. Anyway, let's go ahead and run this. It created our bucket, which, again, we can check in the Cloud Console. We go to Cloud Storage and see our bucket here. While we're here, we can delete this example resource. As a final example, let's create an experiment in Vertex AI. You can, of course, choose a different region here if you'd like. This error nicely highlights that we may not always have preloaded libraries and may need to install additional packages in these notebooks. In this case, one of the packages that we need and that is not available by default is the Google Cloud AI Platform package. Let me show you how we can install that. We'll go to New Terminal for the install. And then use a pip command to install the package. So we're downloading and installing version 1.21. It looks like that was successful, so we now have that Python package installed. You'll often need to restart your Python kernel to use newly added packages, so let's do that now. Once we see the kernel status is idle, in the bottom left corner, we're ready to go. Let's retry that cell from earlier. And now it executes without error. Let's again check the newly created resource. And there it is. In summary, we've showcased how to create cloud resources across a few different Google Cloud services: BigQuery, Vertex AI, and cloud storage. We used Python code running in a Vertex AI Workbench notebook to make this resource management a lot easier. In addition to the seamless connection to GCP services, Vertex AI Workbench notebooks offer great security, scalability, and accelerators access. We can also turn off notebooks without deleting them to retain data but make the cloud costs negligible. As a reminder, be sure to delete all resources that you've created in your experimentation so that you have no GCP bill surprises. We hope this video has been valuable, and thank you for watching.